Seeing this picture, you might say to yourself, like, what is a guy in a wheelchair doing right there? And this is actually me last summer in Norway. And I'm gonna tell you the story of how I ended up right there. And this story begins when I was 7 years old and I'm sitting in the car with my brother and my brothers actually, and my mom and dad, and going down to my grandparents to celebrate Christmas. And when we're sitting in the car, I get this strange, pain in my bottom from sitting down. And about 2 months later, I'm sitting there. I'm in the hospital getting chemotherapy. And this pain turned out to be cancer, turned out to be a tumor the size of a fist growing in my lower back. And after this, a very tough year followed with chemotherapy and radiation therapy and all different kind of treatments. But eventually the doctors realized that the treatment wasn't working and they had to take out the cancer with surgery. And that surgery meant cutting a lot of nerves going to my legs. And that's why I'm in a wheelchair today. And after this surgery, a really tough time followed. It was, first of all, I had to lay still in a bed in hospital for about 6 weeks. And after that, I wasn't allowed to sit down for an entire year. But during this time, I could still feel happiness and joy because I could walk a little bit. I can move my legs a little bit. I'm a bit of a fake cripple, and I can walk with this walker. And that made me feel, so happy that I can walk a little bit because I'd seen a lot of kids in the hospital who were in wheelchairs, and they usually looked a little bit different and depressed and handicapped. So I was really afraid of ending up in a wheelchair myself. By the end of this year, I was finally allowed to sit down. Can you imagine that feeling? Like not having used your bottom for an entire year, and all of a sudden you're getting to sit down. It was like, such a nice feeling. And when I got to sit down again, my mom found this training camp in Gran Canaria in Spain for like disabled kids. So she figured we'd go there, we get a week of sun and some rehab. That'd be awesome. So we come down, and I'm walking with my walker towards the bus that's taking us to the hotel. So I'm walking over there, and then I see something by the bus that just says error in my head. Because by the bus, there's this woman sitting. She's in a wheelchair. She's marking everybody off, and she's happy. And in my mind, that is just error. It doesn't work out. So I come up to her and say like, hello, my name is Aron. And she says like, hello, my name is Pia, with like the biggest smile ever. So I get onto the bus, and at the same time, I'm telling myself like, I'm gonna look through Pia. She's just faking it to make all the other disabled kids happy. First day of camp, I'm walking with my walker towards this big grass field where we're gonna do our rehab. So I'm walking down there, and then I hear a voice behind me that says, good morning, Aron, how are you doing? Who do you think it is? Of course it's Pia. And super happy today again. So we talked to her for about a minute, and then eventually she says like, Aron, you should try out my wheelchair. It's much better than the walker. And I get super scared, and I walk away as quickly as possible. Well, yeah, I guess it wasn't really that quickly. I mean, have you ever seen an old person with a walker going fast? Not really, huh? But Pia, she was smart. She realized that I was really scared of the wheelchair. So she's on to me, and eventually she says like, Aron, now you're trying out my wheelchair. So I say to her like, okay, 1 minute, and then I want my walker back. So I get into her chair, and I do a few quick pushes like this, and I feel like, wow, I can see that she's happy. You know, because all of a sudden, I could roll like 4 times faster than I could ever walk. And looking back at this moment, I realized that in this moment, I made 2 decisions that would change my life forever. Decision number 1, I'm gonna get a wheelchair, but the wheelchair can never make me disabled. It can never make me handicapped, because that's all up in here. And decision number 2, I'm gonna steal Pia's wheelchair. This is me in my first chair. And it was such, happiness to be able to be free again, to be able to move around and play with my friends. But the best thing with being in a wheelchair was that I can do sports again. I could, do athletics, I can play hockey, and I could do sailing, all the things that I really loved in my life. Fast forward to a few years back when I was 25, it's like 5 years ago, and I'm in a pretty bad place in life. I just had a hip replacement surgery, and on top of that, I'm broke and I'm single, so it's like, it's a bad place. And I'm having coffee with my friend Johan. And Johan, he's this awesome adventure guy who's climbed Mount Everest and done all kinds of different cool adventures. So we're having coffee, and out of nowhere he tells me like, Aron, you should climb Mount Kebnekaise with me, the highest mountain of Sweden. And I just look at him like, dude, have you seen the wheelchair? And he's like, come on, man, we'll figure out a way. And first I say no. But then he asks me a question. He says like, Aron, what's the worst thing that can happen if we fail? And I think about it for a while, and I think like, okay, I'm not gonna die. It's not like a dangerous mountain, but I could fall down and I could break an arm. I'm like, I'm willing to take that risk. And climbing that mountain is one of the hardest things I've ever done. It's a struggle. We work really hard for 18 hours and finally getting up there to the top. But the feeling sitting on the summit of Sweden, looking out, is one of the feelings that I will take with me for the rest of my life. When I came home from Kebnekaise, I started thinking like, if I can do this, maybe I can do more adventures and other cool things. Maybe I can become a professional adventurer. So I started going like crazy. I climbed Kilimanjaro. I swam from Sweden to Finland. I won a 92-kilometer ultra race in the deserts of Dubai. And I started thinking, what is the biggest and coolest and craziest adventure I could ever do? And I'm from Sweden, so we like the cold. So I figured, could I ski to the South Pole? Like, is that possible? Can you do that when you're in a wheelchair? So I started prepping and finding sponsors and training and building this custom-made sled, and I figured, let's do it. So me and my friend Doug, we headed out on this epic adventure to ski from the edge of Antarctica all the way into the South Pole, where we're going to ski in temperatures between minus 25 to minus 40 degrees Celsius in really, really windy and harsh conditions, sleep in a tent and ski for 10 hours a day. And it was brutal. I remember on day 11 of this adventure, I just came into the tent, I'm done, I've been skiing for 10 hours, and I'm so tired. But at the same time, I can't sleep. So I pull up my phone, and I start watching Top Gun. Have you seen Top Gun, right? Tom Cruise with fighter jets. So I'm watching this movie, for about 45 minutes. And during those 45 minutes, I cry like 15 times. You know, I cry at all the really happy parts, and I cry for all the sad parts, and I like cry for everything. You know, and after watching for 45 minutes, I say to myself, like, I can't go on like this. How am I gonna be able to go like this for another 2 weeks? It's not possible. But in that moment, when I'm having a really tough time, I pull up my secret weapon, so to say. I pull up this picture. This is a picture of me together with my friend Saga. She's 16 years old. She's like the coolest girl ever. She's full of energy. She's happy. She's awesome. But Saga, she's fighting terminal cancer. A similar kind of cancer that I had when I was a kid. And when I look at this picture, I say to myself, like, if Saga can keep going, if she can be this awesome girl, considering what she's going through, then I can also ski a little bit more. About 2 weeks later, we finally came to the South Pole. And it was an amazing feeling. You know, the feeling getting there and getting to shower for the first time in 3 weeks, it was great. But the best thing with getting there was that when coming to the South Pole, I get this phone call on the satellite phone from my team back home, and they tell me, like, Aron, we managed to raise $800,000 for childhood cancer research. So back to this picture. What am I doing right there? A while back, I did a speech back in Stockholm, Sweden, where I live. And after this speech, this woman comes up to me in an electric wheelchair, and she says, like, Aron, about a year ago, I did something that changed my life completely. I fired 50% of my friends. I only kept the ones who were like Pia, who were like Johan, and who were like Saga. People that would push me, people that would give me those small but so important pushes outside of my comfort zone. People that would tell me that you can do this yourself. And it was, you know, this amazing joy in her face that she said, because of that, today I'm independent. Today I'm free. And I think that's what my talk is about today. You know, we all in here, we have different abilities. We're good and bad at different things. But I don't think it's about what abilities we have in life. I think it's what we do with those abilities. So make the most with what you have. Thank you.